Welcome back, Halo followers. Today, I want to do a very overdue breakdown of my animation that I created a couple months ago named Master Chief vs. Noble 6. Right? This is a pretty big project that I worked on alongside with Reclaimer Gaming, which actually wrote the original story, and I'm going to break down exactly his part in this whole thing, as well as my own, and why this project meant so much to me and why it was worth like 7 months of my time and many hours. I'm going to guess about 250 to 300 hours of my free time working on this, and why it was so important. Guys, this was fun. This was exciting, and I can't wait to just break into it and kind of do my own like reaction video, even though I sat here and watched it thousands of times as I animated it. But firstly, be sure to smash that like button, Blue. I mean, really, it helps a lot with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, subscribe, join me on the journey if you like this. And at the end, be sure to stay tuned, because I'm actually got a pretty special announcement regarding the future of the animations here on this channel, as well as another one. All right, so guys, go ahead, do those things if you're interested in staying tuned, and let's go ahead and start talking about it. All right, so Master Chief versus Noble 6. This was actually originally a story that was made by Reclaimer Gaming, right? Reclaimer Gaming is another Halo YouTuber, not as well known as most Halo content creators, but definitely one that you should subscribe to, definitely check out. So he created this theory video, a speculation, what if kind of video with just gameplay on top. And it was about basically him narrating a story as if he was reading a book that he wrote about Master Chief being hunted down by Noble 6 instead of Agent Locke. Okay? Pretty cool. I did not see this when it first came out, and I think it had been several months after it came out that he messaged me during a live stream and talked about me animating one of his projects. Now, this is definitely something I've never done before, and when I watched it, I just felt that little tingle of motivation and inspiration. Like, what if the community actually took a really great story, really great ideas like this, and sat down and just animated the fucking thing, right?
Blue Team also reaches the platform and regroups with Kelly. Fred.
You are sure about this, Chief? We have no idea what's on the other side.
The Master Chief turns to face Fred.
Yes, I trust her.
Kelly puts a hand on the Master Chief's shoulder as she walks past him towards the teleporter. With you until the end, John. Chief watches as she fades through the blue light out of existence. Spartan 117 takes a steady breath in anticipation to see Cortana. The sound of metal clashing against metal is echoed through the cave as the Master Chief is knocked to the ground from his right by an invisible force. The Master Chief stands ready for its next strike when the distortion turns to reality.
When I saw this story, or rather heard it, I just felt like I needed to do it. Right? I don't really know anyone else that would. We've been talking about Master Chief versus Noble 6 being a theory, an idea for years. And I have the capacity, the capability, the money, and the time to make it happen. And I love both of these characters. They're both my favorite characters in Halo, so it absolutely made a lot of sense, right, to do this. So without further ado, I just gotta say shout out to Reclaimer Gaming and his phenomenal work in writing this whole thing. And I'm going to talk about his part in this as we go, as well as my own part and what I added to the animation, and how I adapted it, so to speak, and why this meant so much to me. So firstly, let's go ahead and kind of react to it, okay?
You are sure about this, Chief? We have no idea what's on the other side.
Yes, I trust her.
Good enough for me. I'll take point.
We're with you till the end, John.
So, real quick, the first thing you're going to notice in this is that maybe that Master Chief's armor is a little bit different than the other members of Blue Team here. And this is actually why I was going to go with the Halo 5 armor for like the longest time. But every time I put Master Chief's Halo Infinite armor in here, it just looked much better. And the focus in this animation is actually Chief versus Noble Six, not so much, you know, Blue Team and Noble Six, although it does become a little bit like that later. I just took the executive decision, even though Reclaimer Gaming disagreed with it and didn't like it. He did end up saying that he did enjoy it. He actually did his own reaction video of this, which I'll leave down in the description as well. But you know, he wrote this dialogue, right? He set up the ideas here, and I went in there with my imagination and just set up the scene. I wanted it to be kind of, you know, complementing Halo 5 Guardians fight scene, right? I wanted it to be a reimagination of that scene, not a complete, you know, scratch and recreation of it, right? I wanted it to be kind of complementing it as well, kind of believable, right? Now, some people didn't mention this part real quick here. I just got to say, what happened here was that Master Chief actually got a little bit of interference from Noble Six's suit. Conveniently, right? He was the last one to step into the portal, and something happened. Noble Six's plan actually got messed up here. He'd been stalking them, I like to imagine, for a while, and I think this is what Reclaimer Gaming wrote too. I wasn't super concerned about getting it on dot with Noble Six's story because I wanted to adapt it. I wanted to add my own ideas in there, and quite frankly, build upon it and improve it where I saw that there was some improvements to be made. And so I thought that maybe if there was a little interference here, it'd be cool. He actually did come up with the choreographing of the next shot here. So let's go ahead and watch that. So this whole moment, super fun to animate. Absolutely feel like I nailed it. I loved the introduction of Noble Six and Reclaimer's story here. And I really, boy, did I want to get it right. The music is a huge part of this from the Halo 5 soundtrack. I think it's called the Honors theme, maybe. Singeli theme, but still it fit really well here. I think it was also something tying in with Locke too, the Locke and Singeli theme. But anyway, gotta shout out my friend Brendan Ray. He's helping me write and develop The Lost Wolves as well as Project Eden, my 90-minute Halo 3 parody movie. He pointed out that the hit that I originally had where Noble Six just came out of nowhere and hit him was a little bit abrupt. There needed to be anticipation. And so that's when I went in there and added the static interference that made Chief suspect that there was someone lurking around him, which gave him the upper hand. Noble Six did not want to attack him like this. He had to. He saw an opportunity where Chief was by himself, and Chief was onto him, so he had to strike. This was not ideal, and if given the right opportunity and time, I think that Noble Six could have probably subdued him as well as figured out Blue Team later. But this is just speculation.
Oni.
The Office of Naval Intelligence has given me direct orders from Admiral Osman to bring you and the rest of Blue Team in, sir.
You bringing me in would only influence Cortana to bring the Guardians towards Earth. Towards humanity. Oni doesn't know what they're doing. And the UNSC, they're making a big mistake.
That may be true, but I have my orders.
And I have a job to do.
So the I have a job to do is actually advised to me by a friend, and I did a couple minor tweaks to the dialogue, but for the most part, up to this point, Reclaimer Gaming's vision and what he did in his What If video is pretty much, I would say, kind of identical. As far as like the set pieces and like the staging of it, you know, I don't know so much about the background and the motions of everything, but pretty much the same. And I decided to add a little bit of unpredictability. That was very important for me in the when I was choreographing this whole thing. I wanted it to be kind of unpredictable, in which I add this next thing, and I'm super proud of it. And watching the reaction videos so far, exactly my intended effect. People are just like, whoa, what?
Alright, let's see it. Come on, come on, come on. Okay. Oh! Oh, playing with like the holograms from Reach. Oh!
Here we go. Oh, he's got a sword over. That's new.
So I do actually want to explain what happened here, because we're making a video, right? Is that Noble 6, right around this moment, holograms, and sends his hologram forward to do a lunge punch at Chief, but actually his hologram body, which you cannot see at all, quickly runs to the left, right? And so what we have here happening is that within, nanoseconds, Master Chief realizes that Noble 6's lunge is actually a hologram. He sees a very slight glitch here. You could say this is because of his luck, maybe, maybe not. But as the hologram lunges at Chief, he realizes and hears this movement behind him. Spartans with that very quick, very sensitive hearing, they're superhuman, right? And plus with the Monir armor, they're able to do some amazing stuff, right? So that's when he notices that Noble 6 is behind him. So at this moment, when Master Chief he slides off the platform, I needed him to retreat and get off the platform. He's not really retreating here as much as just actually sliding off the platform. At this point, he's been kind of toyed with, and he's been getting his butt kicked so far, ultimately. Because Noble 6 is sneaky, Noble 6 has experience taking out militias, and his expertise is other humans. Whereas Master Chief has, a lot of experience with Covenant and aliens, he doesn't have a whole lot of experience with humans. And this is just like a little bit of lore reasoning as to why he's getting the upper hand so far. He also has all kinds of gadgets, and which we'll see in a moment here. A lot of people said that we used too many thrusters in this, and I don't think the thrusters were a big part of what Reclaimer Gaming had in his story. Barely, really, I think. I did them because I thought it was really cool, honestly. There were some things that I just did because I thought were cool. Right there kind of adds a lot more pack to its punch, right? When there's a thruster backing it. Now, this moment that we're coming up to, I really wanted it to be... I just love it. A lot of people did not like this scene, and I could see, when I showed people this scene in person, as well as watching reaction videos, people were kind of just like bored. Honestly, just kind of flat and bored during this push and pull. And I think some people enjoyed it. Some people maybe got what I was trying to go for. But this was like a test of strength, right? But since Noble 6 has better armor, and since he's been tasked with taking down Chief, he actually breaks Chief's thrusters. They're just pushing 110%. And then one of them pops off and destroys one of the Sentinels. And this is the gadget that we're actually, the red laser beam, right? I internally called it the lasso. The laser lasso is kind of like a tractor beam, kind of a hybrid technology of UNSC and Covenant technology that is essentially able to grab onto anything and can pull and be pulled, right? So this is kind of like a grappling hook, Master Chief, or kind of like Master Chief's grappling hook, but it's Noble 6's version. This is not something in Reclaimer's thing. It's something I originally added. Some people didn't like it, some people did, but I think it's really cool because it adds kind of like an upper hand for Noble 6 to kind of be able to compete with Chief. And so in this moment, he needs to get Chief over to him, so he's grabbing him, and Chief decides that he is not able to fight this pull. So instead he embraces it, And this is when Noble Six is kind of caught off guard, right? And Chief thrusts at him. Oh. This impact took forever, by the way. This whole action sequence was very hard to choreograph, and it goes by within seconds, but it was difficult to plan all this. And he's pissed, by the way. Noble Six is pissed. And so now we have the Enforcers. And this moment was important, maybe a little cliche, but I wanted them to work together. And this whole segment was actually, these were some of the last shots in the entire animation, by the way. These were the most frustrating, annoying, and ones that I just wanted to get over with, but still, I think came out pretty well. This shot took forever. This shot took forever. I know I still struggle with weight, and I still struggle with, getting it all to look the way that I really want it to. But I'm still really happy with how this all came out. And at the end of the video, I'm going to talk about things that could improve and so on and so on. But this whole part was improvised too. Just needed them to run away. And I did not think of adding this Crash Bandicoot kind of boulder run here at all, actually. It was just very last minute improvised, and you could actually, if you watch closely, you'll see that the Enforcer was barely animated rolling down after them, but still it's there, and I thought it was kind of cool. Probably my most proudest shot in this whole animation was just this slide run thing and then the exit of it. That I've watched this so many times. I'm just so freaking happy with it. A lot of people were calling Noble Six Spider-Man here, but still, it took a lot of time and thought to get these shots looking right, which cinematography is so important to me. Now, a lot of people said that these were huge knives. They're not. A huge knife is called a sword. This is a sword fight. I could see why people are calling these knives, especially like Master Chief's sword is a little bit shorter. You could even call it a machete. It's the Halo 1, well, it's like the legendary machete from the games, but now, starting right around here, I actually was very inspired by choreography done in Dragon Blade, which is this cool Jackie Chan samurai, versus Roman movie, in which they actually switch roles quite a few times, and I wanted to add like a Spartan flavor to it, which is why I wanted to do extreme exaggerated movements and anticipation that is not seen in the choreography in the movie, as well as the thrusters. And then I decided to add a little bit of, just my own like little Spartan twist on things. Now, it's actually kind of hard to notice, and when I move the camera in this shot in Source Filmmaker, it was actually, Chief actually flies pretty far. So what happens in this moment is that Chief grabs Noble Six's sword, his hand that's holding his sword, pulls it down, and then almost actually cuts his head off. At this moment, right around this moment, the fight starts becoming life or death. Up until this moment, it is pretty tame. Noble Six is just trying to subdue Chief. Noble Six gets too aggressive here, too desperate, And that's when Chief has to knock it up a notch. He realizes that this Spartan is willing to kill him, right? And we learn about why later, but there is a lot of undertone going in on this, and a lot of people have been able to read that too. It's not terribly obvious, but Chief realizes that, this whole point, his whole thing, he's been very defensive. He does not want to fight Noble Six. He's trying to stop Cortana. This is supposed to be happening during Halo 5 Guardians, right? Pretty much the same story, but Noble Six is the one intervening instead of Fireteam Osiris. Anyway, he cuts off Noble Six's attachment, and that's where we get to the roll. So right there is about the end of the Dragon Blade inspiration. I wanted Noble Six. This moment was very important to me to get right, and it took forever. And movements like that, for the most part, I motion captured this and then cleaned it up like crazy. But those crazy flips like that, I actually took from Mixamo, Adobe Mixamo. So those little movements, those flips, jumps, super important for the animation. Some people called this whole thing pretty anime fightish, which I can totally see. I'm definitely not trying to be Monty Ohm. I'm not trying to be anyone but me. This fight, I wanted to have a little bit more weight to it, a little bit more slow-paced, for a couple reasons. Because partly, I'm not super experienced doing this, right? I needed the fight to be tame to an extent. I can't do stuff like that. I'm not good enough like that. And also, everyone has their own style, right? And this moment was a huge thing for me because I wanted to get the inspiration of this was actually God of War Hellblades. I wanted Noble Six to just be twirling around this blade, just absolutely destroying everything. Again, this is an inspiration that I've had from not only Hellblades but also Monty Ohm because it's just wacky and crazy and fun and rewatchable. This is what I love about not only games, but also movies and animations that make them rewatchable. It's just fun. I wanted this animation to be fun, to have anticipation, and to have impact, right? Those were like the pillars of getting this whole thing the way I wanted it to be done, right? It wasn't easy, and I need to work on weight. I need to work on a lot of things, but we'll talk about that soon. So really, Chief, I don't think is super proud about pulling out his firearm to attack Noble Six, which just has a sword, 20 feet away. But this is them disarming each other. He knows he's not going to kill Noble Six in that armor. He's trying to get that sword out of his hands because, the damage that he could have sustained to his armor with that blade is serious. A lot of people are saying, oh, why? How could a metal blade hurt metal armor? This blade, I have to imagine, is sharp enough to justify Spartans fighting with them, right? This armor, if it impacts somewhere where there isn't direct metal armor, could probably cut through, could probably cause a serious injury or decapitation. These are Spartan swords, and they're meant to, at least Noble Six's sword, is strong enough, probably, to seriously injure and subdue Chief to the point where he can be arrested and get off planet with him, bring him back to Oni. And yes, he's actually cutting bullets in that shot. This shot, very happy with. Nothing super special, but just got it the way I really wanted it to. He's now got to throw this sword at Chief. That's really his only option just because of the distance thing. And in doing so, he actually leaves Master Chief up for, kind of vulnerable. He's kind of vulnerable now, Chief is. But there is a theory. There is a theory that Chief maybe, perhaps, did not want this fight to get any more lethal and dangerous. And he also knew that Noble Six's plan was to armor lock him. And so someone pointed out that I love this theory, is that Chief just got tired of fighting him. He knew that this was going to go on for a while. Chief could probably win, but he would have to probably kill Noble Six, and he didn't want to do that, you know? So I'm going to leave it up to y'all's interpretation of what happens here. I like to think that's what Chief did here. But I'm not saying that's necessarily canon in this. Again, I want that to be something that you guys independently think of. Story's partly yours. Yeah. So, Noble Six, much younger than Chief, I think about by 20 years. He's a little surprised that he actually took down Chief. Huge inspiration here for Halo 3's beginning when Chief's armor gets locked, you know, when he crash lands on Earth and Sergeant Johnson finds him. And then, of course, the Believe trailer, right when he catches that, you know. I wanted people to be shocked because everyone believed that Chief was going to win. And so I think the decision was clear, was that, okay, Chief, of course, has got to win, but I want him to lose first, too. I think that'd be a cool twist, and I don't think a lot of people expected that. And, yeah, so we have him holding this armor lock thing, not quite connecting to his armor. Looks up, he's still here. That's when Noble Six panics. He grabs his sword, and within half a second, again, things are just kind of slowed down here, ultimately, for us humans to see what's happening. I like to imagine that everything's actually happening way faster, but this is just so we can actually see what's happening. But yeah, he jumps up, sticks Noble Six with the locker, and then at the same time gets planted in the visor with his sword. Almost cuts his head off. There's a possibility that Noble Six was trying to cut his head off. Maybe this was just a fluke. You know, it was just trying to get him off him, but Noble Six must have known what he was trying to do when he grabbed the armor locker.
Maybe he's better than he looks.
Following orders isn't always the right thing to do, Spartan. You should know that, being a Spartan 3 yourself. This sure isn't a standard military issue.
It's an old friend of mine's.
So this part was not in Reclaimer Gaming's script. This is something that I decided to add, and honestly, I had a lot more planned for it. I just was running out of time, running very low on energy. Really did not know how much I could put in here last minute, but I just knew I wanted to show briefly that Noble Six did in fact survive. A lot of people loved this part. It was like their favorite part, which just made me kind of inspired to do a little bit more, honestly. I would love to do an animation based solely around Noble Six's survival. There is some fun things planned that I have in the future for that, so definitely something to look forward to. But yeah, really happy with how this came out, and so happy that people really enjoyed it. I did have a lot of trouble figuring out how I wanted to do this shot. I just animated Noble Six walking forward. I mocapped him walking forward, and I was like, okay, how do I show that encounter that he had at the end of Reach, that he won, even though he was surrounded? How do I show it very easily without saying it, you know, like, oh, I beat those elites, you know? I wanted there to be an elite body, and the energy sword that he had above Noble Six's body, where he was on his back, and now we have this reversed image where he's walking away. Everyone that was a problem to him a moment ago are dead, but he's not walking away without damage, which is what we see in his armor right there. He fought hard, right?
I was on Reach when it fell.
And you know, that one, that really does hit the feels. Getting the music just right, where that little piano would, those strings would hit just at the right moment, took forever. There was a lot of wacky ideas I had, but I decided to just play it safe with that little tone, and getting the timing right was really important. Now this shot, I always imagined Noble Six in similar clothing as that Halo 5 trailer that we saw years ago, where Chief was walking through the desert. And what we have here is similar to that, right? He has this kind of torn up cape, and I was gonna have him a hoodie, but the hoodie just didn't look right, and that's another thing Brendan Ray helped me with. But just getting the cavern right, getting the storm, the weather, the effects right, was all kind of tricky, really fun. Didn't take a whole lot of time, but yeah, it was fun. A lot of people like this, so I do want to do more with this. If y'all want more of this, let me know down in the comments below. This shot actually took forever to get right. A lot of issues, and actually, by the way, I forgot to tell you all this. There's 5 skulls hidden inside this whole animation. If you can find them, email me. All right, if you can give me the timestamps of 5 skulls, they're hidden I would say pretty difficult. I mean, there's a couple that you might find easily, but a few of them are very hard to find.
To bring a stop to this.
Maybe some part of what he's saying is right. She's changed, John, and following her won't stop this.
Then if I can't stop her, what will?
Humanity, Chief. Humanity made her and got her this far. And one Spartan can't keep saving the world.
Again, Reclaimer Gaming wrote this. I simply just did everything else, like the animation, got the characters to sit around, hired the voice actors and actresses. But Reclaimer Gaming wrote this, and I feel like the Spartans would actually talk like this. That's what's really important for me in Lost Wolves, as well as this animation, that it's shot not only like a Halo game would be, or a Halo cinematic would be, but for it to really feel and sound like a what-if animation. I want people to believe that this is real, and I could not have done this without Reclaimer Gaming. And the scene that he set up, the fight, the entrance of the animation, and then we also had this like kind of the Spartans in this round table kind of talking about the situation at hand, and how Noble Six did in fact succeed in his mission, which was to get Chief to stop pursuing Cortana, or at least making the wrong decisions here. And he didn't have to die either. He didn't have to kill Chief either. The Spartans worked together, but let's keep watching and see what happens.
Maybe Halsey can.
She made her.
Thank you for bringing her to me.
You were on reach.
So originally in the script that Reclaimer Gaming wrote was Kelly took off the armor lock. So this isn't anything that was new that I added or adapted to the thing, but I wanted it to be more meaningful than that. I wanted it to be Chief himself, that when he realizes that Noble Six knows these secrets, like Dr. Halsey creating Cortana, he makes this connection with Noble Six. He realizes that Noble Six, that there is a connection between him and Cortana and him, right? And this is why this moment was so damn important for me to get right too. I saw it from the very beginning, and it wasn't exactly easy. But here we are, and it was kind of like the thing that Master Chief never really got to say to Noble Team, because most of them perished. Lore-wise, it seems that Noble Six is 99% likely gone. Because it's never definitive quite if he does pass, but it's pretty obvious he did, I guess. But that's what makes these what ifs so fun, I think. So what if he did survive, and what if he did encounter Chief, and they got into this huge fight, but they made up? And not only that, Chief celebrated and thanked him for his sacrifice. It kind of fills a hole in the heart that, never really had the chance to be there in Halo itself, Halo lore. So, healing healing to watch this, I think, in some ways, as a fan that enjoyed the story, you know?
Thank you for bringing her to me.
And that was written by Reclaimer Gaming.
You were on Reach. Who are you?
Classified.
Noble team.
Once. Yes.
George, he's...
Yeah.
He did his part.
So where's Halsey now? Last I heard, she was in Jewel and Dama's hands.
She's with a team of Oni Spartan agents on Sanghelios.
Then that's where we're going.
Gives me chills. Gives me chills. Between like the Halo Infinite music, between Reclaimer Gaming's writing, between these ideas that like really came from my soul and heart. From all of our hearts and souls, you know. Just really cool to see this all finally come together, you know. And this all honestly happened accidentally. I added the Noble Team line and then the once, yes. But at that moment, actually, for a long time, I had this kind of somber music that would build up to like this hero action music that we have in the final version. And I wish I could have gone back and kind of anticipated the sword, like had a shot on the sword and looked at it, and then that's when he would rip it up and pull it, right? So it's like we realize that Master Chief knows not only is this a survivor of Noble Six, but he knows all these things that it was Noble Six that brought him Cortana, that led him to Halo, that started this whole journey, you know, full circle. Feels a lot better than the Locke story that we got, I think, right? So Reclaimer Gaming, absolutely beautiful. And I tried to direct it to the best of my abilities. That sword pull and rip off the ground, I was actually going to have him walk up the rocks and kind of stand up in there, like kind of like the shining hero and stuff. I thought it was a little bit too glamorous. You know, right now I think Noble Six is kind of defeated. You know, he feels like he maybe failed at his mission. He couldn't beat Chief. Even with all the training and equipment and special abilities and tricks he had up his sleeve, Chief was just too much. And Noble Six is just too young and naive. Even though he's a killer, he's an assassin, right? He's worked for Oni. He's seen some dark stuff. He's done some dark stuff. Still not good enough. But he's got something better than accomplishing his mission. And now, after this kind of revelation, and by the way, Reclaimer wrote this so good, is that we realize his motivation is outside of following orders. That's what I think Locke failed with his story writing and character writing, was that his motives ended with his orders. So we have Noble Six just trying to do something that is meaningful to him, and he realizes he can do it outside of doing his orders. And that's something we might see in part 2, and which we'll talk about soon. But the George too,
He did his part.
the George, he's done his part. You know, he did his part. I wanted to further connect these Spartans together before we move forward. You know, this is a great introduction and setup and even ending to this short project, but this was really important to connect, right at the end too. Really get everything in the story connected together and believable too, because that's important. It's like the just believing that this could happen in Halo lore is really important to me.
Last I heard, she was in Jewel and Dama's hands.
She's with a team of Oni Spartan agents on Sanghelios.
Then that's where we're going.
It's not even a question. That's where we're going. So the implication here is that Noble Six has given up on his orders. He has probably gone rogue. You know, here he has 4 Spartan 2s looking at him, a Spartan 3, the best of his class. Still can't stand up to the best of his class, though, Master Chief here. And we have some really heavy implications here of what could happen next. The next parts are actually already voiced by Reclaimer Gaming, so if you want to watch Reclaimer Gaming's future narrations of this storyline here, albeit there are changes because I made changes to it. I adapted it in the animation version. It is there. However, there will be more changes in part 2 of this animation, assuming that does come to fruition. There is quite a lot of writing I did there. I think the challenge for me, taking a step back from the animation itself now, for the next part 2 is making sure that all of this is lore friendly and lore accurate. Even though I did a lot of things that were not lore friendly and lore accurate, I want it to be lore believable. Not so much as like accuracy as much as it like kind of respecting the lore while changing things to make things look more badass, more cool, more fun, because that's the pillars of what the pillars of this whole animation is about, is making it fun, anticipation, exciting, plot twist, unpredictability of what might happen between these Spartans. So we have an implication of that Noble Six might be just joining Blue Team here as the 5th member temporarily to go to Synkelios, which is Master Chief. Doesn't even ask a question. You are part of our team, and you're coming with us to Synkelios to find Dr. Halsey. But there's a problem. There's a problem of the Arbiter. Will he join Master Chief? Or will he fight against Chief? Or will he be neutral? What about the other elites, the civil war going on in Synkelios at the moment, as well as the problem of Agent Locke. Agent Locke is potentially one of Noble Six's comrades, has worked with Noble Six, and he has his own opinion about Noble Six, I think, as well as Fireteam Osiris. These are Oni-branded Spartans that are going to have better upgrades, going to have different kind of training, although you could say, to put it simply, weaker than a Spartan 2 on them by themselves. I think I want to make it believable and surprise people. These Spartans are not to be messed with. Any of these Spartans are really not to be messed with, right? So when we have potentially a 5 Spartan some of the best Spartan 2s and Noble Six himself versus 4 Spartan 4s, seems pretty obvious that they're going to win. But is it obvious? Because there is quite a lot of opportunity for crazy things to happen here. Crazy things to happen, which I want to work with Reclaimer Gaming closely on making sure that we get this right. And we're probably going to deviate from what he originally wrote, but I think that this will be for the best, and that we can add on to it, see what people's thoughts are on his original writing, and just make sure that it stays up to the quality of this animation, so that it can slide into, a direct sequel, a part 2 of what happens here. And maybe Master Chief and Noble Six's beef might not be done for. After all, that's the name of this series, Master Chief versus Noble Six. So we gotta wait and see what happens here. Already done some test stuff in Unreal Engine. Already kind of working on Synkelios. So is there going to be a part 2? Most likely. I do want to quickly talk about the winners. There was 4 winners that if you participated in the right amount of time, the timeline that I gave, then you could win $100 to doing a reaction video. So I just want to recap that real quick. There is firstly VX Gaming, and this, by the way, was by no means a selected winner process. This was very random. So there's VX Gaming, VOD Mesa, Best Car Gaming, and Scar Claw. So y'all have won, and if you haven't collected your prize money, go email me and we'll do a verification process, make sure you are the person that did the reaction video, and then I'm going to send you money or prize, whatever, equal to $100 US worth. So definitely thank y'all. You could still do a reaction video, by the way. I absolutely love seeing people's reactions. This animation, by the way, is up to 716,000 views, which is pretty mind-blowing to me. Very, very, very grateful, very thankful that this happened. And, you know, after spending about 250 hours or so, 300 hours working on this, maybe it's not a lot of time considering what I was able to do here. But, you know, thank God I have motion capture, thanks to XSense. That's what really got me through this, because I can't animate that super great. You know, this cleanup is the name of the game for me. Cleanup, motion capture. Cleanup, motion capture. So, yeah. I gotta say, huge thanks, huge shout out to everyone that helped in this. Everyone that did their parts in making this a possibility, especially Valkyries 733. Valkyrie 733 made it possible for me to take the Halo 5 rig that I already did a bunch of work on and put the Infinite rig on it from the game here. We also have a Foreigner platform that was inspired by the Epitol platform in the middle, I think where usually the rocket launcher spawns. In the very top middle of that Halo 3 map, I sent pictures of that to my friend Glitch, and he was able to model it into what I used for most of the platforms in the world. And then we also have the Halo CE machete modeled by Aegis Wolf, and the Chief versus Noble 6 art. Absolutely beautiful stuff. This was done by Dashi Jinx, and the Noble 6 sword is actually Sam's sword from Halo The Lost Wolves, and that sword is just, I mean, it's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Some of you guys have been wondering about the soundtrack and, you know, all the sound effects, I guess. I've done a lot of sound effects from just ripped from the games, Halo Reach, Halo 5, a lot of stuff from Soundly, Blue Zone sound effects, as well as the soundtracks pretty much from Halo 5 and Halo Infinite, right? A lot of it is Infinite, actually. A lot of it's 5 too. Again, I wanted this story to respect Halo 5 while remixing it like crazy, because that's what Reclaimer Gaming intended. So guys, again, this is the weirdest thing I think in a long time that I've done or collabed with someone else on, and you know, it took a massive amount of my time to get this thing the way it is. And you know, I know it's not perfect. There are a lot of complaints about it too, which, you know, nothing I think people are saying that really broke it. I know some people are saying that it's like cringe, you know, maybe something's forced and stuff, but I really do like the feedback that I've gotten from this. A lot of people saying that there was a lot of too many thrusters, too much thruster action. The sword combat was maybe kind of redundant and dumb. And, you know, these are kind of like things I feel like maybe I already knew in the back of my head. Like, there is a lot of thrusters in this. I didn't think people would be so annoyed by it, but it is something that I had a lot of fun with, you know. And I think I'm not going to give up on thrusters in part 2, but maybe use it during more important moments, more sparingly, more, you know, with more impact when they are used, you know, so they're not just constantly on, you know. And after watching the Halo TV show and the combat scenes, it's kind of like upped my standards for what I want to do in this sequel. And the sequel, I want it to be better. I want it to be kind of peak. You know, I don't think there'd be a third one here, but a lot of people like this stuff, so, you know, I'm kind of very open-minded to going into making more lore animations, not just ones with Chief, but maybe taking a little bit of the story from Ghost of Onyx, one of the stories from Ghost of Onyx, maybe taking something from Fall of Reach, maybe just having like a 2-minute segment of an event that happens in Halo lore, you know? So, yeah, you guys let me know what you think about that. And I think that's pretty much all I gotta say on this Master Chief vs. Noble 6 video. My special announcement is that I'm releasing a almost no watermark version of this video. I realized that my watermark was a little bit aggressive, which I regret doing that. I just knew that it was going to be uploaded like crazy to TikTok and other places without my permission, as always, which is kind of fine. I just want credit. I want to be able to like reap what I sow. You know, I put so much effort into this, and you know, people just don't always link me back or tell people that it was made by Halo followers. So yeah, watermark, I want to bring that down way down. Last minute decision was a bad decision. But with that being said, guys, you know, I want to upload a version of this that's clean, and I also want to share my channel, Lightfire Studios. Lightfire Studios is an animation-only channel, a film and animation-only channel that is not only going to be Halo, but a place where I can just make animations or behind-the-scenes animations, because I know a lot of y'all are just strictly interested in these animations. And not so much my commentary or lore videos, but just a place where you can guarantee, you know, get some animation stuff out of me. So anyways, guys, if you want to check out Lightfire Studios, it's probably not really ready to launch, but I'm just going to give you all a little preview of it. So link down in the description if you want to go check that out before everyone else, before the real marketing begins on it. And I hope you enjoyed this. There's probably more. I could talk about this animation probably for days, but I'll just leave it there. I think we're getting close to an hour at this point. So you guys let me know what you thought about this and how I can improve, and what else you would like to see animated. And if you watch this far, say down in the comments, banana, all right? Banana is always my code word, it seems, nowadays. But yeah, say banana. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one soon. All right, you take care. I hope you enjoyed, okay? Peace.